If you've ever had a situation where one of your villains falls short of what you wanted them for, then this is the video for you. The villain is arguably the main character of a D&D story and can make or break a campaign. The make of an excellent story often depends on its villain and its bad guy. It's why you remember Hans Landa, Heath Ledger's Joker, and Thanos a lot more than Jared Leto's Joker or Euron Greyjoy. With that being said, here's how you can make your villains absolutely slap in your D&D campaign. Villains with compelling motivations always trump those without. Back to Euron Greyjoy. His motivation was what? To sleep with the Queen? Yawn. Who can relate to that really? A motivation needs to be clear, understandable, and somewhat relatable. Even if you disagree personally, it also needs to make sense in the world. Thanos wanted to ensure the prosperity of the universe at whatever cost. His ideology is his motivation. Ledger's Joker wanted to expose Batman's flawed ideology because he believes that no one is truly uncorruptible. These are ambitious goals that drive the story forward. If your villain's goal is too small or doesn't make sense, it's going to fall flat. If Strahd just wanted to win the lottery, so bought out every corner shop's lottery tickets, Curse of Strahd wouldn't be the amazing campaign that it is. To make your villain's motivations, look at your world, what they might want from it, and make the threat significant to the player characters and or the world at large. Some ideas could be they wish to become an immortal demigod through slaying and sacrificing swathes of innocent people. Maybe they want to take revenge on the party for something they did earlier in the campaign, a slight against a no-name NPC, and now they've amassed a great power to do so. Or they will plunge the world into eternal darkness to secure the survival of their small clan. Make their morality ambiguous. When a villain isn't a purely evil, moustache-twirling, damsel-distressing sociopath, they become complex and interesting. Magneto was relatable, garnering him a cult following of fans who agreed with him, despite being the villain. A tragic backstory, being a victim of the Holocaust and wanting to protect another group he belonged to from persecution by any means. It gives him moral ambiguity. In some people's eyes, he is truly the hero, and you can see how people would follow him. Strahd is the unfavoured son, drawn to dark powers by unrequited love and corrupted by them. Alternatively, Auril just really likes snow and wants to spread it as far as she can. If you can give your villain another side, or a past that drives them forward, your players will have some moral dilemmas to sink their teeth into. Most campaigns actually have multiple villains. I'd recommend making the main villain one that the party gains a relationship with throughout the campaign and repeated exposure, rather than one from one of your players' backstories. It's better to explore those as villains of their own arcs, with personal connections to one character, rather than as the primary villain for a whole campaign. You can't fake real connection between party and villain, so it's better to earn that through personal connection over the course of a campaign. Have your party interact with the main villain throughout the many arcs of a campaign, while saving your players' own villains for smaller arcs. That can stop other players from feeling left out of that emotional connection and triumph over the villain at the end of the campaign. Enjoying the video so far? Consider subscribing for more content as it releases, and please leave a like so the algorithmic gods know to send this to more D&D players. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what the most memorable villain you've ever faced or played as a DM. Your villain's threat needs to be credible to be successful. A weak and unimpactful villain will fall flat. Your villain needs to have formidable personal power, such as combat skills and magic, and or have incredible influence like wealth, armies, or political connections. This can be together or either or. A strong lone wolf villain, a weak and insignificant individual with incredible wealth that commands enormous armies of mercenaries, or an incredibly powerful individual that also leads a vast horde of minions. This will help them to have. A hidden villain can be a good thing, but if their influence isn't felt throughout the world and campaign, it won't lead to that climactic final arc. Your villain should be a consistent presence, either through direct encounters or through foreshadowing, clues, rumours, hints at the consequences of what your villain has been doing around the world will build anticipation, understanding of the threat, and give them a solid presence in the world. Even a villain who remains unseen until the final session can be impactful if their acts are made pertinent by the impacts left on the world throughout the campaign. Though personally, I would recommend having the party directly tangle with the villain across the course of your play. That way, you can build a personal connection and history for your players to really get into. And their presence shouldn't stay the same. The first acts of your villain should be small and contained, and they should evolve with the growth of your party. Bonus points if the party's own actions are related to the villains. If they choose not to go to a quest to someone in a town for a long time, maybe that NPC is dead, or the whole town is razed to the ground by the time they arrive, for example. But all of this means nothing if you have the most white bread villain ever, answering every question with, "Yeah, I don't know," or I guess so. Your villain needs to have a memorable and enthralling personality, and this can be easier said than done, but they should be distinct. Their appearance, their voice, their mannerisms should probably be reserved exclusively for them, to set them apart from the rest of the other NPCs in the campaign. If you find it challenging to come up with this from scratch, don't worry. You can model them from a character you like in a piece of media, preferably a villain of course, but it doesn't have to be. Think of people like Homelander, Tywin Lannister, Gustavo Fring. Use these as a basis for inspiration of your characters, and you've made a fantastic start to a unique and interesting villain. The downfall of your villain should be earned and satisfying for your players. Do not, and I will repeat this, do not under any circumstances have an NPC, or gods forbid, a DMPC, kill or defeat or anything the final villain. This just sucks for the players categorically, and nothing will ever convince me otherwise. It would be like if you were playing Skyrim and Parthenix came in and one-shot Alduin, except even less fun because it's just the DM playing solo D&D in front of an audience. Boring. Make the fight earned. A lengthy dungeon, real risk of death, and a challenging final fight with multiple stages and hazards. Even better would be make sure that all of your players get a say in dealing the final blow. Then, once the dust settles, make sure the villain's impact is felt in some way for the rest of time, their legacy. In my setting, when the party freed Barovia of Strahd, that area was brought into the campaign that we followed it with. And people still talk of what happened there, and the land remains a dark, dark place, despite its freedom. Callbacks can remind your party of what once was. For more tips on making sure that your world is immersive, check out this video on how Matt Mercer creates incredible worlds and the other lessons that we can learn from him.